mystical, so unpredictable, here on the SNL network.
Yes, that is right. We are back with the Hot Take Show. Welcome on in, everybody, to the Saturday Night Network here for the premiere of season 48 with host Miles Teller and musical guest Kendrick Lamar. So excited to be back here right after the show finished airing with all of our friends in the chat who join us every single week after the shows to break them down immediately after they air, and all of the wonderful panelists who will join us every single Saturday night throughout the season. This is the first of probably 21 times we will be with you throughout season 48. So excited to get to do that. The way the show works tonight is we give our instant hot takes and analysis of all the sketches, and we want to get your feedback in the chat, which we will bring up on screen. So if you're joining us for the first time, welcome on in to everything we do here at the Saturday Night Network. So excited to be with you all and excited to tell you about all of our coverage plans for season 48. But for now, let me bring in my man, Andrew Haskell, who joined us earlier in the week for the Giraffe podcast and is here to talk about the premiere. Haskell, how are you?
I'm doing great. It's 1 a.m. I forgot that I could stay up this late. It's not until SNL season that this comes around again, but super excited to get into this premiere episode with you guys.
Yeah, can't wait to get your thoughts, Haskell. Always great to hear from you. And joining us, it is Nicole Rovine. Nicole, how are you?
I'm good. I won't lie. Just a few hours ago, I was in the emergency room, but turns out there's zero wrong with me. So I'm actually really good. I got an IV with just basically a lot of water in it. That's pretty much what happened to me today. So I actually feel better than I felt in the last time I had an IV with water in me, which was maybe 10 years ago. So I feel amazing, and I have so much to say, and I'm just so excited about the episode.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for sharing all that. You're really being real here tonight, so I appreciate the be real. Kaleena Steakle joins us as well. Kaleena, so happy to have you on the podcast. Kaleena, how are you?
I'm great. I could not be more excited. This is my favorite time of year when SNL kicks back in gear. It kind of, for me, like SNL is always kind of the beginning of fall and kind of just my favorite part of the year. And I'm so excited to be on the show with you guys and talk about what I think was a great start to the season.
For sure. And look, premieres always have positives and negatives. It's always fun to temper our expectations, but be hopelessly optimistic about what we are going to see. And I have to say, I talked about this a little bit. We did a Twitter Spaces a few hours ago just to, spoiler-free preview the premiere. And I have to say for everybody, this is the episode that I have been waiting for, going into my third season podcasting about Saturday Night Live. This is it. The start of some changes, the start of a new era. It's nothing against the old era. I really enjoyed my first two seasons, 46 and 47, podcasting about the show. But I have been waiting for something like this where we could talk about all the new possibilities with Saturday Night Live. And I would love to go around the panel and ask for their hot takes or headlines from the night. And that's usually the segment where we want to find out, like Monday morning, you open up the newspaper. What are you going to see when they write about SNL? So overall, Haskell, what is your headline or hot take for the night?
It was electric. It's you kind of touched upon it, and I've been saying this. I said it all last year. We love Kate McKinnon, we love A.D. Bryant, Kyle Mooney, Pete, all of them. We love them, but you have to eventually leave so we can get to this point, right? And they did it in a perfect way, right? Rebrand the logo, new opening, throw the host in the cold open. There was so much buzz right out of the gate that I think it carried the show through maybe a weaker second half sketch wise. But that's what a strong opening can do during SNL. So I remember it might've been premiere week last year. It was one of the first couple weeks last year. I said, John, I'm so excited for the future. Kind of the same feeling times 10 like this year. Just a really cool way to start the season.
Yeah, totally agree. Nicole, how about you? What is your hot take for the season premiere of season 48 of SNL?
Yeah, I mean, speaking of buzz, like the buzz, the Bowen's bug, that thing is sticking with me. I agree. I feel like the energy, it was all about the energy. I fully agree in terms of content. It was like no skips in the beginning. Everything was so good. And then I feel like the end, the second half, it was just as fun as the first half. And I feel like I'm more in the camp of like, if the vibes are there, then that is the most important thing. And I feel like the vibes were really good the whole time, that like everything felt good and fun and fresh. And I think that's what a good live late night, literally Saturday night show, shouldn't it be that way? Shouldn't it be that the front half is really solid and consistent and like really grounded, and then the second half is more loose and fun, and maybe there are some things that don't make perfect sense. I feel like, as people who commentate and analyze the way that we do, it's like, and for me, I'm so like that. I love analyzing things and making it so nitpicky, but I feel like that's how it's supposed to feel, is the second half of something like this. As heartbreak feels good in a place like this. Spontaneity feels good in a place like this, And I just think the way tonight's show felt is the way that the show is designed to feel. And I really enjoyed that.
Well, it was just different, right? I mean, like it's I can't remember the last time I watch a show and I'm like, okay, the front half, it's so front loaded. Like it's so strong. And we're going to talk about those sketches in just a moment. But it was a really, like, there was an interesting disparity here. I wonder if that's a trend we're going to watch for in season 48. But yeah, all the new feeling to it. I don't know if it was the excitement or whatever it was, but there was energy in the building tonight. Kaleena, how did you feel about what you saw from SNL? What is your hot take for the night?
I would say my headline would be Miles Teller. Oh, I get it now. I don't typically consider myself to be like the biggest Miles Teller fan. I think he's a talented actor, but I just never kind of got like the cultural, I don't know, adoration for him. Like I just didn't really hit the beats with everybody. So I was really hesitant to have him as the host, especially as the season opener host. Unfortunately, as an audience member, I do put a lot of pressure on the season opener and closers. I expect those to be really strong bookends for the season. And so I was kind of admittedly a little bit timid about it. And I completely agree with Nicole and Andrew. Just the energy felt really different. It felt like the cast was very aware of the significant departure they had in terms of cast members. I think they were aware of the expectations and kind of, unique pressure that was put on them. I think most of us would agree we're kind of expecting Bowen and Chloe and Heidi to kind of be like our main people now that are kind of leading the way. I don't know. I was delightfully surprised. We're about to get into the opening, cold open, which I think I can't wait to talk about. I think it was a really strong first start to the season.
Yeah, look, my hot take, I'll say before we get into the cold open very quickly, is that I always expect premieres to be middling. I think this was a great premiere, probably one of the better premieres in the last 10 years for sure. So maybe not a super flaming hot take for this first episode, but I have to say, I was just like, it met my expectations for sure to get to see some of those things right at the beginning. And we'll start right there with the cold open, which was a Manning cast cold open. Would love to get Haskell's thoughts on this one for sure, because I know we're both sports guys. So basically, the Manning cast is something that you get to see on ESPN2 during Monday Night Football in real life, where Eli and Peyton Manning, former NFL quarterbacks, former Super Bowl winning quarterbacks, host this basically talk show while football games are airing, and they bring on different guests every quarter. Well, this time they're talking about the season premiere of Saturday Night Live, and we get all the typical tropes that you would expect. JJ as Trump, Chloe as a Trump lawyer. We get Michael Longfellow leading in Heidi Gardner, and the one time we might see him tonight, which was not true, actually. Would have preferred that to be more meta. But we get Heidi coming in as a governor of South Dakota. Mikey is Don Jr. Bowen is the president of China. Sarah is creeping into the sketch. Of course, we get Jon Hamm in this cold open, three-time host. Jon Hamm was originally not in the cold open in dress rehearsal. He was in the monologue. He was then moved to the cold open for the live show. Shaun White made an appearance in this one as well, was originally played by Ben Marshall in the in dress rehearsal. And then we also had Devin Walker as the corn kid, of course, very popular on TikTok now, and Molly and Marcelo doing the gritty. So lots of elements here. Would love to talk about all the meta aspects. Really feel like this was sort of made for us to break down. So let's break down the breakdown of the cold open. Haskell, what do you think?
Well, first, was it made for? Of course, it was made for us. They started talking about SNL stats, like throwback for us. That was awesome. But there is a lot to unpack, like in a really good way. And I've said this on the podcast countless times that I don't like basket cold opens that are like, let's just pull out everything we can from the week and talk about it. But obviously that's different during the premiere because you have to talk about what happened during the summer. So I cut them some slack there, but I also think they did it in the way that I like it, which is it's still all framed in the same way without just being like a news broadcast that's jumping around. So that like what a great way to start off the night with that super meta, super kind of buzzworthy cold open. I love, because we're so used to those of us who watch it every single week, like the second somebody comes on camera, we know who it is. And it did take me a second to say, who do they have playing Peyton Manning? And then when you realize it's Miles Teller, like, he looks exactly like him in that. Like, that was one of the better, like, makeup jobs, I guess. Like, or it's so natural. So that was great. And then kind of my line of that sketch was when he refers to Jon Hamm as a regular host during what now seems like a golden era of the show for like people my age who grew up during that era. Like, of course, it's like a great, like, for me, it's like, yes, it was a golden era, but it was a really funny line to kind of throw it in there. That's like, yeah, now it seems like a golden era.
Well, the best part about the whole thing was like every single time anybody asks, like, which is one host that you wish could come back that hasn't come back yet, it's Jon Hamm. Like, that's like the number one choice. So all that, like, obviously there's the Jon Hamm and Miles Teller connection from Top Gun, but like beyond that, it just fit so smoothly. This was probably one of the best cold opens that we've seen in years. So like for me, the fact that it slated on the premiere was amazing. Nicole, what do you think of the cold open?
Yeah, I mean, I think it felt really ambitious and it succeeded in the attempt to make the cold open so like designed for people like us instead of just people who don't watch SNL all the time. I feel like what I was expecting was more so to lean into like, all the things that we've been missing out on and to like go more deep into those news stories, rather than like do just talking about the show. Like anything that we talked about with Trump, it wasn't really about Trump. It was so meta and it was about the show. It was about SNL. And I think that like that was a really cool thing to do because I would expect that the main goal would be to try to like get people in who are just not so tapped into this like meta culture around it, like how we analyze that's probably the last time you're going to see him, tonight, and all of us are going like, statistically, yeah, it is probably, and then we were, that wasn't true. But I just think it was cool to be like, it felt like fan service, and I appreciate that. I think I'm in the camp that the more meta, the better, and the more self-aware, and the more we're like laughing at things that the deepest cut type of audience, the more that we are catered to, obviously, the better we feel about it. But I'm curious how they're going to weave that in throughout the season, because I do think it's important to balance, what we like with what people like who are just going to tune in on a random Saturday, or if they're not usually watching the show and they're with a friend that weekend who does watch the show, how are you going to loop someone like that in? To me, that's also important to balance. So as much as I love when the show is catered just to me, I also do hope to see some ways to balance it a little bit more, so it's for people who really want those in jokes, and for people who couldn't care less about the in jokes, because I think that those people also, there's room for them to also understand 90% of the jokes, the way that people who really watch SNL understood 100% of the jokes.
Yeah, totally. Kaleena, I would love to get your thoughts on the cold open as well.
Yeah, so I think kind of going off your point a little bit, as soon as the cold open started and I kind of realized what it was going to be, my first thought was like, oh my God, this is so designed for me. This is not only my type of humor, but this is a great reflection of like how I feel about the show and what I care about. But I also started thinking of, like 5 random people that don't really watch SNL or that make fun of me for being as obsessed with SNL as I am. And I'm like, oh, they would also find this funny. And so I think you're exactly right, Nicole, that this was like a great way to kind of achieve the balance for both audiences. And I was genuinely impressed because I feel like the departure of the amount of cast members we had, and specifically some of, the anchors, people like 80, people like Kate, it was going to be an elephant in the room that they knew they had to address in some way. And frankly, I was really curious how they were going to do it, and if it was going to be done in a way that was going to satisfy me as a dedicated and longtime viewer. So I was so excited when it became meta like this. I never become a happier human being than when Jon Hamm unexpectedly appears in something, whether it's a movie or a commercial. I think there was literally like a State Farm commercial that he appeared in, at some point. I was like, oh, Jon Hamm. Oh, Jon Hamm just keeps showing up in things. That's always strong for me. I actually put in my notes potentially might be one of my favorite cold opens of all time. I mean, I was happy, I was laughing, I was excited. It made me kind of even that much more geared up for like the rest of the episode and the rest of the season. I'm also just generally a big sucker for fourth wall breaks. And then Peyton Manning is also one of my favorite hosts, or at least one of my favorite athletic hosts. And so I always kind of love the tie-in, and it makes me reminiscent of when he's been on the show before. So honestly, 10 out of 10 sketch for me. That's kind of my perfect SNL sketch.
John just looked like he was about to tear up when you said
Yeah, it's my favorite
Peyton
episode of
Manning. I
SNL.
know,
So
because
that's
it
so
must be. It
yeah, no,
must be said.
I do love that you said that. And look, if there's anything that this cold open shows, besides the fact that it was funny, it was pretty well written, like it was a good cold open, it sort of shows to the casual SNL fan that's tuning in for the premiere, hey, maybe I'll check out the premiere of SNL and see what it's like. It actually makes you feel like SNL is a show that is not meant to just be watched on that evening. It's a show that exists like beyond that current episode. There's a world of SNL, there's world building, there's character development that happens in real life between these cast members. It's a beautiful thing that's done for the show that's lasted for 48 years. So I loved every minute of this. Okay, we get our incredible new opening montage. I'll say incredible because I was just excited to get to see something new and fresh. Does anyone want to comment on the new montage we got to see?
I was excited. Sorry, go ahead.
No, you go. I had very little of substance to say.
I was just really excited because it felt very vintage and reminded me, again, kind of the like Fred Armisen, Jason Sudeikis, like that era, the different changes in the font. Honestly, as geeky as it is, every new season, like the new opening credits are always one of the things I'm most excited for. And I have to say also because I'm seeing a lot of comments that are warming my heart, I did miss seeing Alex Muffet's name. He would have had a fantastic new little number in this opening, and I thought
we did a podcast on that already. So, but yes, the new montage is great. Haskell, you liked it?
Yeah, I mean it's always strange when the first person leaves. So now Mikey Day takes like the leadoff spot, so that's always different. I also like that there was this little through line of like seeing all the cast members like either before or after they'd already been announced, like they were popping up in like each other's little vignettes, which was kind of cool. Like they've done a little bit of that in the past, but I think they really leaned into it this time.
Yeah, let me address the elephant in the room. So my understanding about why Cecily Strong was not in the opening, I believe she is in California doing her show right now. So I don't believe that they had an opportunity this week to film with Cecily for the opening montage. I believe that once she is back, it's very easy for them to film some stuff with Cecily and then insert her into the montage. So unless SNL or NBC or us, like somebody announces that Cecily's gone, she's not gone. So I know that we're getting a lot of questions about that, but I believe she's still part of the show. Though I will say, I have been arguing this for a long time. If you're not in the building that night, you should not be in the montage. This is something that goes back to the beginning of the show. And I think that's a tradition that they should start over. So that's always been my 2 cents on that.
Let me correct myself to Che, not Day. On the leadoff spot.
Yeah, perfect. Okay, let's talk about the monologue that we got here from Miles Teller. So another Jake Nordwin and Mike DiCenzo piece that we got that duo last year. By the way, the Manicast cold open was written by Colin Jost, Patton, Schultz, and Tucker. Teller monologue written by Nordwin and DiCenzo, and we get the typical thing that we got last year, where we got these first-time hosts talking about their backgrounds, their own personal anecdotes. A very interesting, funny comparison between Miles Teller and Rachel Maddow in terms of the way that they looked. But for me, this was all about the home movie of Miles Teller as a kid imitating Sherry O'Terry and then Will Ferrell as the Spartan cheerleaders. Just the cutest thing ever. So Nicole, what do you think of this?
Yeah, I mean, we've been really spoiled. I feel like more so the last couple of seasons with a lot of home videos. And I honestly can't get enough. I'm almost so spoiled that when he was saying that he maybe didn't have it or he thought he lost it, there was no part of me that thought we weren't about to see it. I knew we were about to see it. Which was I was happy. He kind of made it seem like we weren't going to, but it was just like so sweet. And I think I will say I feel like um in this case it was so cute and so funny that I love to see it. But I do wonder, like we should start a count when we do, all of our stats and analyzing how many home videos and break it down. What type? Is it someone doing a sketch? Is it someone talking about SNL? Is it someone just being an actor when they're 5 years old. I feel like that in itself, I'm going to talk to Mike, our stats guru. I feel like we can do a whole breakdown about the art and science of using home videos from childhood in monologues. I'm excited about that one. But yeah, I loved it. I feel like also I learned that he just has one of those faces, Miles Teller, that he looks like a lot of people. Like in the cold open, it was, oh, that's Peyton Manning. In the monologue, that's Rachel Maddow. Like, I feel like he can be anyone. He was the finance bro. He embodied that extremely specific character. Like, I think, and maybe that's why he's had success, you know, in entertainment. I think he really can transform into anyone. And it was really cool to see. So yeah, I thought it was definitely, the whole monologue was just truly like a lead up to that adorable video. I mean, John and I, we were talking about it would have been fun to have a really big moment for the, you know, the new cast members in the monologue. But I do feel like the night wasn't so much about Miles Teller that I liked his monologue was that place. I think, you know, maybe like I'm open to the idea that mid-season we're gonna get something with the new cast members, and it didn't have to be the first episode that they appear in. Something like really all about them, the four of them, and doing something quirky and embarrassing. I'm down for that to be at any point in the season. So yeah, I liked it, and I feel like it was some of the most kind of spotlight that Miles Teller got throughout the night. But he did a great job, and just in general, which we'll talk about, of like he left a lot of room for other people to shine throughout the night, but he also was really captivating at the same time.
Kaleena, how did you feel about the monologue? I know, like you said, you were hesitant about what you were going to get to see from Miles Teller coming in, but did he turn you around especially with the monologue?
I have to admit, I actually cried at the end of the monologue because I was really touched by like his connection to Saturday Night Live seemed so genuine. And I feel like I have a pretty solid gauge for when a host is doing it because it's just a thing you should do if you get offered to host SNL. I feel like it's pretty clear when they don't necessarily have like an emotional connection to the show, or they don't watch it or don't really have a history of watching it. And so automatically, I'm going to be that much more on board and kind of cheering for the host if I know that it's something that they're like really jazzed about and they're really excited to be there. And I don't know, he seemed just really genuine and passionate about it. I liked that the monologue was not written to be like overly self-deprecating, because SNL tends to do that with certain hosts, and it kind of feels like you're just beating a dead horse after a while. So it felt, you know, kind of light. It felt like a good intro into the rest of the show, and it wasn't too lengthy, which I appreciate, because sometimes the monologues, I don't know, kind of feel like they go on for a long time, and then it distracts me a bit from the show. So I liked it.
Haskell, how did you feel about the monologue? Were you missing that element like we were talking about introducing the new cast members, or did you think about that at all?
No, well, actually, I'm happy they didn't do it because although, you know, we watch SNL year and year, you know, and we start to see the patterns, sometimes I'm happy that it's not always the pattern. And I'm glad this isn't just like, oh, we have a bunch of new cast members, so they have to do the big new cast member monologue. Like, it's okay to pass that stuff off when you have a good monologue. You had a good monologue. Like, you know, when you see somebody like Miles Teller and you see people talk about growing up watching SNL, like sometimes you remember like it wasn't always like, you know, that it's as divisive almost as it is now, where people are either like, oh, it sucks now, it shouldn't be on anymore. Or there's people that are like, we like it. There's a reason for it to be here. And I also feel kind of embarrassed. Like, I don't have like, I can say I was a big SNL fan growing up. I don't have any home videos though. Like when I host, and if you're a fan of the show, you know I was taken in the potential host draft this year. So I could pop up later this year. Like I won't have a tape to show to prove it. So a little embarrassed.
Yeah, that's
You
too bad.
can,
Okay.
I'm sure there are plenty of child actors who would love you to pay them $5 and they will star in your home video as you. Just like smudge the camera a little bit, say it's from 100 years ago when you were born, and it'll work fine.
Perfect.
Yeah, we can get that done.
Cool.
Okay, let's head to our first sketch of the night. And I also really enjoyed this one. It is known, according to SNL, as DM Game Show. This is a we do get a lot of game show sketches to start, but I actually think this was a good one. Please Don't Destroy, and new writer August White wrote this one, where there's a game called Send Something Normal, and we have Miles Teller as the host, Mikey Day playing Adam Levine, J.A.J. as Army Hammer, Keenan as Neil deGrasse Tyson, and Bowen Yang plays himself. And it's a game basically to see who can answer properly in the DMs. So, Kaleena, I will start with you on this one. How did you feel about DM game show Send Something Normal?
I have to say, I immediately rolled my eyes because it was just like too real. Like there's been too many situations where DMs just go completely awry for some reason, and people cannot seem to just make, I don't know, like normal conversation, or there's always some motive behind it. But then I found it really funny. I will say, unfortunately, I was so thrown by Mikey's Adam Levine impression. I don't know if it was maybe just like a last minute job that was thrown at him. I don't even know that there's necessarily distinguishable qualities to do a good Adam Levine impression, but he started getting like a weird country twang at some point, and to their best efforts, he didn't resemble Adam Levine whatsoever. So that kept throwing me off. Also, the Army Hammer of it all, I don't know, that also, like, the impression wasn't really working for me that well. And so I was definitely leaning more into either the Bowen aspect or actually Keenan's Neil deGrasse Tyson, I thought was really funny. I thought that whole bit and what it kind of spiraled into was really good. But I'm kind of learning, and this is maybe a little bit unfair with my expectations, if the impressions don't connect with me, or if it feels like they may be misplaced, like the wrong actor for that impression, then I notice I kind of have just a general disconnect in the sketch. So I didn't dislike it, it just wasn't my favorite of the night.
Yeah, that's interesting. I think so. We had Bill Hader and Taryn Killam play Adam Levine each once on the show prior. I definitely see your point. See, for me, I think I'm a little bit opposite of you, Kaleena, where like I don't need if it's not like a Family Feud sketch where the subject of the sketch is basically about the impression, then I feel like I can look past it to sort of like monitor the what is the message I'm trying to get across, or they're trying to get across in the sketch, and then I sort of disregard that. So for me, I was able to enjoy it regardless, but I would love to get Haskell and Nicole's opinion on this. So let me start with Haskell. What do you think of Send Something Normal?
I'm a sucker for when SNL does a game show and then the actual game is something incredibly simple, like in this case. Like, and I know it's a well that they go back to a ton, but I'm still a sucker for it. But I think the idea of the sketch, and I know they're playing off of specifically like some things that have happened recently, but I don't even know if you needed celebrity impressions for this game show, or if it would have just worked if it was like just regular guys with maybe Bowen Yang or maybe one other impression. I don't know if you actually needed it to be a line of celebrities, but it also worked for me because it was paced really well. We introduced everybody, and then they all played one round. They didn't try to go, like, I feel like that sketch on other nights is like 3 rounds, and all of the celebrities are kind of saying the same joke over and over again. So it wasn't the strongest sketch, but it kind of stuck with me because it was like nice. It was quick paced. We got some laughs in it. We moved on with the night.
Definitely. Nicole, I'd love to get your thoughts on this. I was sitting next to my wonderful girlfriend, Allie, and we were watching this one together, and she turned to me and she said, how come they don't have Ned from the Try Guys in this? Do you feel like is that a missed opportunity?
Good call, Allie. I don't think it was a missed opportunity, and I will tell you why. The reason
Okay.
why is also the reason that I disagree with Haskell. And it's because I think I'm being hard on you so randomly. I didn't have any vendetta. No.
You're looking for a new
having
rival in
fun.
season 3.
Yes, I need a new rival. And you might be the target here. It's just, I don't know. It's happening. I think that the foundation of that sketch was the Adam Levine and the Army Hammer. Like they were parodying those exact texts, and then I feel like having Bowen as the sort of like breath of fresh air of the like of like, oh, Bowen will be fine, like Bowen will be nice, and then of course like the comedic part was saying like, okay, there's something that will make Bowen not be normal, and it's like Dua Lipa, and I thought that was like a nice kind of undercut of like when Bowen is supposed to be sort of like the like just being like the comfort type of character, and then like it's just funny that like there's always something that like no one in the world is normal at all. Like there's something that will make everyone not normal. And I like that sort of larger commentary about just people and human nature, whether it's a cannibal, or it's a cheater, or it's just our normal favorite personalities. Everyone has their abnormalities. But yeah, I feel like it was important to have the exact people that they were calling out in Adam Levine, in Army Hammer, and then the Try Guy Ned. He didn't have like the damning text evidence. He had the photo and the video evidence of him with. And this is, if for anyone who doesn't know, Ned is one of the Try guys, the BuzzFeed guys, who he was the wife guy in the group. They created BuzzFeed videos together for years, and now they have their own production company, Second Try, and they do all this content. And then his whole shtick was that he was the wife guy. Turns out he was cheating on his wife, and now he's banished from the Try guys. So he's also been in the news, just like Adam Levine, just like Army Hammer. But I think it was because I wish that the episode had talked about him, but I think it was smart not to like make up something in text, because like the Army Hammer text and Adam Levine texts were so specific and like memeable, that I think it was right to like give those moments their specific thing. But I do, now that you say that, I do wish that, or now that Allie says that, I do wish that we had seen some Try Guy content tonight. Like even I feel like a pre-tape, like Please Don't Destroy. They could have been the Try Guys, and then the fourth, and then Ned could have been. So there are 4 guys, and now there are 3 guys because the 4th guy has been banished. So the 3 Please Don't Destroy guys could be the Try Guys, and then the 4th Ned, who is no longer, could have been Miles Teller. That's kind of funny?
Yeah, I mean, it could have worked, but we will get to the Please Don't Destroy pre-tape that existed in this episode, which was the Be Real pre-tape. They actually wrote that one. So we'll talk about that one next, which was basically it was a bank robbery where we had Mikey Day and Miles Teller coming in to rob the bank. I believe we saw Andrew and Sarah and Heidi and Bowen and Ego, Devin, and I believe Marcelo were in this as well as security guards, if I got that correct. And yeah, so Mikey and Miles are robbing the bank when all of a sudden the Be Reals start popping because you have 2 minutes to take a picture. And I was going to say to Nicole earlier in the day when I knew they were doing a Be Real thing, I was saying, you're going to have to explain this for people who don't have it. But the sketch basically did that for us. So I guess we could sort of break it down that way. So Haskell, are you a Be Real guy? And did you enjoy this pre-tape?
I used to feel like I had my finger on the pulse when I watched SNL. Now it makes me feel old, man. Like I'm almost 30. I was like, did they make this up, or is this like a real thing? Like I was so like I never heard of it. And I'm typically not this person. Like I like to stay involved, but I guess it's not big in my neck of the woods right now. So I do think the sketch was good at explaining what the social media was. Enough to get the joke. I guess my only issue with it in hindsight is like when I went back and did my research and everything, it was sort of like, okay, it felt like the sketch that anybody could have written after they heard what it is. And it didn't kind of elevate itself to the next level. So as a quick pre-tape, it was good. I like pre-tapes that can get a lot of the cast in, and I thought a lot of the cast in their roles were like kind of quick and punchy, which I liked. But I just want that to be elevated a little bit more. Take one more left turn before you're done with that sketch.
Yeah, so this was Please Don't Destroy and Celeste Yim that put together this pre-tape. So Nicole, obviously you were very familiar with the app. So how did this play for you?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it played well because I love the app, and I think it was that in a way was a good sort of coming back from summer. Like we're going to talk about this thing because it really exploded right after SNL ended, essentially last year. And for anyone who does need a little bit of a refresher, basically it's an app where so you get a notification and it's everyone in the world at the same time. So, if you have a job, if you have a sleep schedule, doesn't matter. The alarm goes off at the same time, And the idea is that you have to stop whatever you're doing. If you're cooking, if you're cleaning, if you're at work, if you're sleeping, if you're on the toilet, it doesn't matter. You have to stop and show the world what you're doing. And so you show yourself and then you show the world around you, as the sketch explained. And of course, you can do it late, but then you're kind of a loser. You're fake if you do it late. So that was the point, and it just sort of like there was also even bigger than the app itself has been this trend of making fun of the app. I would say it's 100% that like the the discourse around it is bigger than the thing itself. Kind of like a "Don't Worry, Darling," which I wanted to hear about that movie tonight. That's my main critique of the night. Is I wish we got some like in-depth analysis of what's going on with that.
Some spit
But
content.
nonetheless, exactly, some spitcon. But anyway, so Be Real, I think it was a good way to like satirize. It was talking about the conversation around it because people will make fun of like we did, the Titanic, like Bowen as the iceberg and the Titanic as a Be Real meme. So things like that. It's more funny to think of like these crazy circumstances. I did it at the emergency room today, which it went off 20 hours earlier, but I was 20 hours late,
You were the
so I
loser.
kind of left out. I was the loser ultimately. Yeah, exactly.
Not real.
Yeah, because I didn't know I would be at the ER though, so I didn't try to make it cool to get like, because people will do that for clout on Be Real, to be like, oh my God, I'm at the emergency room, or like, oh my God, something crazy and bad is happening, and you wait for it. But I just forgot, and then I was there, and I was like, oh, I mean, I have to whip out
Okay, well,
my
what did
Be
you think of the
Real.
sketch?
Anyway, I liked it. I thought it was a perfect like it was a great, I mean, for me, it was perfect for me because I know the app and I've been making fun of it all summer and enjoying it all summer. But I also think, right, Haskell, that it plays well even if you're not like a fan of Be Real. It's like it just the circumstances are funny of like, oh, there's this, this crazy thing going on, but everyone has this other thing going on that is normalized even though it's weird. And it's like I feel like that's sort of like a human thing that everyone can tap into. So I thought they balanced that well. And also Please Don't Destroy and Celestium, that like foursome is like anything that both of them are on together, it's always like a standout for me every single time. So I'm starting to like I'm glad right out the gate I have something Please Don't Destroy and Celeste, because I'm always a fan of that collaboration.
All right, Kaleena, you're waiting patiently for that notification. Tell us your thoughts. Be Real on the Be Real pre-tape.
So I had a friend send me a link to Be Real and ask me to download it, and I messaged her and asked her if her account got hacked because I thought it was spam. So that's the kind of like old woman I am. I'm not on it. I don't understand it. And so I really enjoyed this sketch because it was the most understanding I've ever had of what Be Real is. And it worked for me. It was pretty funny. I don't know. It sounds creepy and toxic and does not sound like an app I will ever be interested in. But I think by its design, it does seem like the perfect setup for a sketch like this for SNL. I feel like that is exactly kind of like the basis for a joke they need. I like that it was a pre-tape. I don't think this would have really worked for me if it was a live sketch. The only thing I have to say, and this is nobody's fault, my first thought was like, oh, the character that Miles Teller is playing would have been Pete Davidson any other season. So I don't know. Just that's my final thought. Just stew with that.
Okay. Let's cha-cha-cha over to the Charmin sketch, which was Punky, Heidi, and Keenan and Miles Teller, who got accepted to toilet paper college. Keenan is sort of upset because Miles doesn't want to go. He doesn't want to go to that doo-doo college. Lots of toilet humor over here, speaking of Be Reals on the toilet. So we later get Bo and Yang coming in this sketch as well. So let's talk about the Charmin sketch that we got here. Nicole, how did you feel about this one?
I felt good about it. It was very surrealist and quirky and also relatable. I mean, Julio Torres is one of my favorite writers of all time on SNL, and I was just listening to his 92nd Street Y conversation with Fred Armisen this morning, and I went to the one he did with Bowen a few months ago. And so I'm very much in the Julio headspace today, and this feels like the sort of like campy, bordering on like theater kid without the musical theater, without the music part. This is like theater kid Julio is how I felt about this sketch. If that resonates with anyone. It was like the surrealism of turning inanimate objects into emotional vehicles and vessels for heartache and pain, and needing to impress your parents and needing to follow what's expected of you, and those pressures of doing what you think you have to do, but in this sort of campy costume, and that's where I say the theater kid part of it comes in. Henceforth, I feel like Cecily would have been in this absolutely for sure. And I feel like this was the part of the night where I was missing Cecily, where I would have loved to see her. But yeah, I loved it because that's kind of where I fall, is like my intersection. There's this huge part of me that is like the Julio Torres comedy of the surrealism, and then the like campy theater kid, like quirky, whatever stuff. So I was happy, and I felt like the stakes were so dramatized, but also very relatable at the same time. Kind of reminds me of Julio's book I keep talking about, but like the his children's book about wanting to be a plunger, wanting to be a vase. Similar kind of vibes there. So maybe there was some inspo. I was happy with it, and I love the costumes. Like shout out
Okay.
to the costume team. Those were really fun.
Yeah. Kaleena, what do you think of the Charmin sketch?
Many, many, many thoughts. First of all, this lives in the same space of my brain where the sketch where Josh Hutcherson has Vanessa Bayer as his turkey girlfriend. These two sketches are like the same kind of thing in my brain, and I love those kind of sketches. Anything that is completely ridiculous and led by Kenan Thompson will work for me 100 times out of 100. I truly almost literally fell off the couch when he blotted his tears with an entire roll of Charmin. I thought that was the funniest thing I have seen in like the last 6 months. Also, Heidi like completely lovingly and motherly being like, "Oh, what's wrong, honey? You stopped up." Incredible. Just like all these opportunities for these great big players to do these silly little one-liners. Again, me being a little bit lost in like the TikTok dance element of it, that part didn't necessarily connect with me. I understand that I am supposed to laugh at that. It felt like it was a little bit of like a reach to the younger demographic that they're trying to go for. As I will always say, this again felt like a little bit early in the episode for me. I'm pretty obsessed with like the order that I wish sketches were in. This very much felt like a post-update sketch, but I enjoyed it thoroughly, and we'll probably go back and watch this again.
Okay, Haskell, how did you feel about this? Would you have gone to that doo-doo college?
No. One of the things I like about this is like I like the idea that like people are always like, why are they doing a Charmin sketch now? That commercial's been on for years. And I'm like, I like that it's not always topical. Like it is something that it's like for years people have been seeing these bears on TV wiping their butts for some reason. And so it just resonates with everybody. Like, and they've done that a few times without through the last few years. I think we're like, why now? I like that it's now. Overall with the sketch, again, I think the premise is a little easy, and it's something that we've seen a little too much these last few years, which is like, okay, he's going to want to do something different. And, you know, it's going to be this drama. Again, TikTok dancing at the end, that's a huge swing and a miss for me. That added nothing. But I will say one of the lines of the night for me that I wrote down is he wants to dance and not just twerking because our asses are clean. One of the lines of the night for me, and he delivered that perfectly.
Yeah. Look, for me, this didn't totally work. I think this was the part of the night where like things like sort of like got onto shaky ground, I would say. But I do see like good things in this, or elements of this that I did enjoy. I think that Kenan was by far the best part of this one. I think he was really like in his prime as far as the lines that he was, especially where he was talking about working in that toilet paper mine for 40 years, only for Miles not to go to college. I think like that type of thing for me is really great. I just wish like I wish they got even like more emotional with it, and then didn't like have that come back into the TikTok dance. Like I feel like if this turned into like almost like telenovela style or like really dramatic, I think that probably really works for me here. But I think when they turn it into like the youthful, like fun TikTok dance thing, I don't know that the concept of the sketch fully matched for me the tone of where it ended up. But I think there's, you know, this is one I definitely want to give a second watch to. So we'll talk about it, I guess, more on Monday. Okay. Yeah, Kaleena.
I do want to just add really quickly as well that Pinky broke during, or excuse me, Pinky, Punky broke during this sketch, and I don't like. Does she have
Not
a history
Teletubbies.
of breaking easily? I feel like that is maybe the first time that I remember seeing her break.
I can't remember not that I remember of, but
No,
yeah,
I don't think
I
so.
guess
So
we'll keep track.
that was a fun
Yeah.
little bonus. I always love when the cast break.
Yeah, and natural breaking is good. That's fine, but not forced breaking. Okay, let's go over to our next piece, which was a Mikey and Streeter and Rosebud Baker piece called Rooftop Bar, where Miles Teller and Mikey Day were playing finance bros or day traders who were talking about the girls that they were going to get at the bar. All of a sudden, Chloe and Ego walk over, and yeah, they are the girls at the bar. And Heidi is the bartender, and Mikey and Miles get very, very nervous. So this was an interesting one to see the turn in the personalities as it was going on. Nicole, how'd you feel about Rooftop Bar?
This was great. I mean, above all, like amazing performances from especially Mikey and Miles. Like Miles was doing a great job. Mikey, I feel like, was just like so in his element here, and it was really fun to watch. Like he just, I feel like this just shows like how good he is, and also how relied on he is. Like he's delivering these performances so seamlessly. He's always doing things that just work so well, and he does things that like I feel like without what he does in a lot of sketches, the sketch would not function. It would not work. So he was just perfect. It was also like so real. Be real. It was very real. It reminded me of. I feel like it took place in the bar that like Nicholas Braun and Pete Davidson and like a bunch of them a lot of other people co-own. I'm not talking about Ray's. I'm talking about Pebble Bar. It felt
Oh, the
very
Colin Jost Bar
that
too.
like Colin Jost. Yeah, Colin Jost has a stake in that. Um, yeah, it felt like that to me. It was just it was so funny, and I liked that it was kind of spun things on its head. Like it made it's supposed to be that trope of the finance bro. It's sort of the way people talk about it. I feel like glorifies the finance bro in the situation, and it really humbled them. And that was just great. Like I have never truly seen finance bros be humbled that much before, like truly. Also Heidi as a bartender, I feel like is a character that could be explored much more. I think I feel like she could add a lot of depth to a lot of different types of bartenders, and I want to see more of that this season.
Kaleena, how did you feel about Rooftop Bar?
It was just okay for me, honestly. I feel like maybe it lands a little bit better. I feel like it's a bit more of a regional joke. So like out here in Los Angeles, I don't really encounter a lot of like finance bros. I encountered it a bit when I was in Chicago, and I, have spent enough time in New York that I understand the concept. But personally, I feel like maybe if I was on dating apps and these were like the kind of guys that I was talking to, maybe it would resonate with me a little bit more. So I think I just wasn't the built-in demographic for this. So it was a little bit over my head. I don't know. It also seemed like a really easy cop out joke to have Mikey reveal that he's a virgin, kind of as like the big punchline. To be honest, it felt a little bit just like lazy writing to me. Like, oh, we didn't write the number of sketches we need for this week. Let's throw in a Finance Bros sketch. So it was, I don't know, was not my top sketch of the night. I'll be
That's
the
fair.
devil's advocate on this one.
Okay.
I'll agree with you about the virgin joke at the end. I agree that could have been more creative.
Haskell, how'd you feel about Rooftop Bar?
I really liked it actually, and I think this is what happens sometimes. And I saw a lot of people on Twitter during the episode. The big thing is like we've seen this before. Oh, this is definitely like a Mikey and Streeter thing. Like we've seen this before, and I think SNL is such a premise machine that sometimes we have a tendency to be like, seen this premise before, I'm out, and it's like, well, hold on. Like the jokes will be different. The setups will be the same. The jokes will be different. And I thought the jokes were different enough and they ran quick enough. And Miles Teller and Mikey were so invested in it that it worked pretty well for me. Like when Mikey just at one point, just like there's a quick pause and he just goes, boobs. Like he just sold it so well. Like that it got a laugh from me. This is like, again, we've seen premises like this before, but I actually would be excited if halfway through the season you see Mikey Day show up as this character again, and we get a different host being a different finance bro, and we see their take on it. Well, I mean, it would have a lot to live up to because Miles Teller was, I thought, phenomenal in this. At one point, like, it almost felt like he got like hung up on his lines, but the character was supposed to, and I really can't tell if he just did such a good job or if he really did get like hung up on the line and just played it off. But either way, like, it worked out perfectly.
I'm gonna have a dissenting opinion here where I actually I like this sketch in concept. I think Mikey was really strong in it. I really liked Mikey's character in it, and I agree I would like to see Nick Chodecork again down the road. I think Miles Teller was miscast in this sketch, and he may have done a good job because I think Miles Teller was a decent host. I think this should have been another cast member. I think if you're going to write this type of concept for the premiere, you cast Mikey Day perhaps with one of the newbies in this sketch and have them play off each other, because this is the type of sketch that is exactly what we're talking about, what we've been missing the last few years from SNL, that could be repeated, and that shouldn't have to rely on another host that kind of looks like a finance bro to throw in there as the second tier. I would rather see Mikey Day, who now, sorry, Kaleena, no longer has Alex Moffat with him, develop with chemistry with other cast members here who could potentially play that. Why not put a Marcello in this? Why not put someone like Michael Longfellow in this? So for me, that's a little bit of a miss.
But then where would you put the host in the sketch?
I think at that point you maybe write Miles in, you write a role for like a boyfriend of, or somebody else coming in to hit on Chloe or Ego or something like that. You can always find the role for the host in this, but I just feel that the concept itself was extremely strong. And I do feel like just taking a step back from a producer's role here, I think there's an opportunity potentially to have used other people in this role, because I think Mikey was even stronger than Miles in this one. So 2 cents on it.
Can I also just point out, because I saw my good friend Bill Kenny point this out, and I saw a lot of other people point this out, like a total Kyle Mooney role, right? Like a year ago, that's Kyle's spot. There's no questions asked.
Yeah. Anyways, look, I'm going to rewatch it again. We'll talk about it later on. But that was sort of like my opinion when I was watching this. I was like, damn, I really wish that, this was another cast member in this, though Miles did a very good job as the finance bro. Okay, Kaleena, I have to start with you on this next one, because I do believe you do work in a movie theater, if I got that correctly. So we have the AMC Theaters commercial, which this is a parody of an existing commercial where Nicole Kidman is promoting AMC Theaters. This time we get Chloe Fineman, who's a wonderful impressionist, playing Nicole Kidman. We get JJ. I think we got Michael Longfellow. We got Molly in there, Punky, who works at the theater. But of course, it's playing off of Kenan Thompson, who is like, what the hell is going on with this crazy lady? So Kaleena, what do you think of the AMC Theaters pre-tape?
I started clapping as if the plane had just landed. I was so excited as soon as the sketch came on. I was like, this is so up my alley. I am always down for Chloe to have an opportunity to do her Nicole Kidman impression, because it's such like it's a cartoony, zany take on Nicole Kidman, but it's somehow incredibly accurate at the same time. And I, especially during the pandemic, I became a really big fan of the different impressions that Chloe did. Anyone who is not familiar with this little thing that plays at AMC, please look it up immediately. It's so chaotic. The memes that have come out of it, because at some screening, people stood up and did literally like salute Nicole Kidman as this was happening. And I think the reason I was probably so jazzed about it is the first time when that thing started playing at AMC, I was like, oh man, this is really how I feel when I watch movies. Like, Nicole gets me. I didn't realize, it was lost on me how corny it was and how memeable it was. And it wasn't until the internet got its hands on it that I was like, oh wait, maybe this is not as emotional and thought-provoking as I thought it was when I experienced it in real time. So I was completely thrilled with this parody. I did not expect it to basically turn into a cult and her ascending to the top. But yet at the same time, it's a cult I would join. So 10 out of 10.
Haskell, this is how I imagined you were when the Community movie was announced this week. You were just full on cult.
Yeah, I was standing up and saluting. As for this sketch, it's one of those things, I feel like people have been asking for SNL to touch on this for a while, and they haven't. And that's not something you always see, where it feels like sometimes something passes and you're like, SNL didn't touch upon it. So I'm glad they came back to it. And I really liked it. My only thing is again, I would have turned it up a little bit earlier. I would have gotten into kind of the satanic voice and the cult aspect of it a little bit earlier. And maybe the last line didn't hit for me that well. Like a good Keenan reacts is great, but just kind of like a bleep is not enough of a punchline for me. I wish there was something else there.
Fair enough. Nicole, how do you feel about the AMC Theaters parody?
This was perfect. This was really perfect. It's just the type of sketch that is so fun to see in the moment, but it's even more so just important for posterity. Like this will be this will be 45% as important as the real version, in 10 years and 20 years. Like it will, I think that this has the potential to like become kind of what the original is known for, to be like people will get them confused and it'll be like, oh yeah, and then it turns out Nicole Kidman is basically like running this cult of like movie lovers, and it's great and it's awesome, and that's sort of like how people are going to come to think of it, which I do think was what we were all getting at when we think of it and we see the salutes and we want to talk about it that way. I feel like what was perfect about this was it tapped into like the psyche of people who love that commercial, myself included, and it was sort of tapping into something that maybe we didn't know was true, which was that we all kind of want to join the Nicole Kidman cult of moviegoers. And now that that idea is in front of me, I think, oh yes, that is actually how I have felt since I first saw it. Like that is exactly how I felt, and I didn't know. So that's what's perfect, is like I didn't know that I felt this way, but I actually have the whole time. So that was great. Also, Chloe had previewed her contacts that she was wearing to be that in that moment of the creepiness when she did the Instagram takeover for SNL this week. So that was cool to see. She teased that she needed contacts for something, and then we saw them in action, and so that was fun also to see. And yeah, I kind of think this could be recurring because Nicole Kidman has renewed her contract to do this again for another year, and I think that more content is on the horizon. And so if we get more Nicole Kidman in the same vibes, I think that we need this again from Chloe, and I think that we could get it many times. I feel like this cult has legs, and I think I want to see more of it. Yeah, that's my theme. Another headline for me is I feel like the seeds are being planted. Like Heidi is a bartender, Chloe as a cult leader. All these things are being planted for me, and I'm like, yes, more. I'm being
Good.
very
That's what the
I'm
premiere
very
should do
good.
for you. All right, yes,
Yeah,
this was the third
yeah.
time we saw Chloe as Nicole Kidman. I absolutely love this. I think the length was really good. That was the key here. I think I saw that in the chat. Short, sweet, get in, get out. I think it was perfect for this particular episode. So very happy to have seen this here. Okay, Kendrick Lamar was our musical guest tonight. Performed "Rich Spirit" and N95 the first time, then performed "Father Time" featuring Sampha the second time. So great on Kendrick. Happy to have him back for the third time. A little bit surprised we didn't get Kendrick in any pre-tapes or anything like that. So that was a little surprising. I know there were no pre-tapes that were cut, at least the ones that were shown at dress rehearsals. So nothing as far as we know that Kendrick was in. That was probably a surprise for me. But let's talk about Weekend Update. So Weekend Update, for everything feeling fresh, we do get the return of Jostin Shea over here with, I think our friend Ellis in the chat pointed out that there's a slightly bluer background this time for Jostin Shea. Maybe that's the only thing that changed, but we'll keep a lookout for that. And so interesting night from Jostin Shea. And then we get 3 different sets of correspondence. So we're going to take them one at a time. Let's start with Kenan Thompson and JAJ as Herschel Walker and Mitch McConnell. First appearance of James Austin Johnson on Weekend Update ever. He was the only cast member last year to not appear on Update. Kenan plays Herschel Walker. It's our first Herschel Walker impression on SNL since Eddie Murphy in 1983. Haskell, how do you feel about this?
Man, how many times, I guess we can say late into his tenure, but we don't know. How many times this far into his tenure is Kenan going to show up on Weekend Update with just a phenomenal character where you're like, yeah, give me that 3 times a year. I'll be fine. Like, his Herschel Walker was great. It's very reminiscent of other characters he plays on Weekend Update, but like, that's Kenan's thing. Like, you know what I mean? He's so good at it that he can just go back to the well so many times. I love, though, that he didn't just come out as Herschel Walker, that they actually brought in JAJ to be Mitch McConnell to play off of. I love a Weekend Update sort of odd couple. There's this I love that they had this dynamic of like Mitch McConnell knows he's an idiot who's not really qualified and he's going to say stupid stuff, but he's just going to sit there and try to like make it work. And then of course JAJ's Mitch McConnell was probably, the best one that we've seen. Beck had a good character, but this was obviously a much better, I think, technical impression. So those two things working together made that a really good piece.
Okay, Nicole, you got anything on the Keenan and JAJ pairing here?
Yeah, I mean, also just from the stats perspective, as we posted, officially every returning cast member from season 47 has officially been on Weekend Update, and I mean, for one of the best, if not the best, rookie season of all time on the show for JAJ, for him, I feel like he now officially has every notch in his belt on the show. I'm honestly shocked that he didn't get it last year, but he was very busy doing quite a lot, so it's not a bad thing that it took this long, but I'm really happy that he has it because I feel like, maybe now I would like to see him more actually on Weekend Update this year. I feel like, the cold open, the Trump or the Biden, it's gonna be one. Which will it be? I feel like and we got it this time too, but I'm a little bit fatigued of that already. So I think that in his sophomore season, I want to see JAJ less in the cold opens in his intense makeup for Biden or Trump, and like I think he could just slay on Update in many different political impressions. I think that's like a really fun place for him to try a new vibe, and I thought it was fun. I feel like, yeah, JJ and Keenan bounced off each other really well. It was fun. I mean, for me, it was um, my least memorable for various reasons of the three. And that's just because the other two had certain things that were very memorable for me. Um, but yeah, I mean, we got all three, and for the premiere when so much was going on, that was crazy that we got three in there. But it felt like they all were good, and I think they all had their place. So I'm happy about that.
Okay, Kaleena, anything on this one?
Yeah, I agree with Nicole. I was probably like the least interested in this one. I was delighted like everyone else was, and I think Andrew, you said it perfectly, like an odd couple pairing. I don't really have a recollection of like in my mind of JAJ and Keenan interacting a lot. So that was fun to just see the spotlight on the two of them. I am flabbergasted at how much he looked like Mitch McConnell, because sometimes either the facial expressions or how they're mimicking them, or maybe the prosthetics don't always completely line up, and I was kind of like blinking at my TV like, wow, that's some really impressive and quick change work they had to do there as well. So yeah, I mean, I'm always down for Keenan to say funny names or just say things in a funny way, even if I'm not completely connected to the material. As long as he's the one doing it, I'm always going to be on board.
Okay, let's talk about the second appearance on Weekend Update, or the second correspondent on Weekend Update, Mr. Michael Longfellow, who out of the four newbies, I wouldn't have guessed necessarily would have made the biggest splash on their first night on the show. But we had the same feeling about JAJ last year, so you never really know what's going to happen. But he comes in, he's the first person since Pete Davidson back in 2014 to have an appearance in his first episode on Weekend Update as a correspondent. And yeah, he comes out talking about his family being anti-vaxxers, and they get to learn a bit about Michael Longfellow, I assume probably part of his set. Yeah, I thought this was really good. I think, first of all, Michael Longfellow's voice, amazing, soothing voice, just really just calm, and really enjoy getting to hear from him. Really gave me Kevin Nealon vibes as far as like his confidence and poise on the update desk and the way that he's talking to you, especially like pre-anchor week, Kevin Nealon when he would come out. So yeah, I was really impressed with what I got to see from Michael Longfellow tonight. Nicole, starting with you on this one, how do you feel about it?
Yeah, that's a good comparison. I think it was good. It seemed like he was maybe nervous, but in a way that he was gonna be really good at not showing it type of thing, where he was like, I felt like he was very energetic, but had this sort of like composure at the same time. Like he was very like present and engaged with things. But yeah, he had this composure at the same time. It was interesting, like very energetic but very composed at the same time, which is hard to achieve in life, and then in live TV is a whole other story. So that was cool, and it was also like, I mean, for that to be a racy uh commentary in general, I think is interesting. And also the lead up. I'm forgetting that the lead up was talking about Sydney Sweeney and her. So her, for her, like a birthday in her family, her dad's birthday, like there were like some t-shirts and some things where people were making connections, and it's about like her family, you know, is probably not the most progressive and liberal in the world. And so that being the lead up. And then he was talking about, which I think is relatable for most young people. I think most young people have parents who are more conservative than they are. Whether they're full blown is another story. But like, I think most young people in general are just more progressive than, you know, their elders. He had an extreme case of it. He described, but I feel like there's depth there. It's relatable, and it's relatable in the way that like he can relate to people who have that a little bit and who are the extreme. So yeah, I'm curious. I feel like when you're gonna do your first update, that's like he's gonna make that kind of his thing, because that's what he's gonna be known for out of the gate. So it's a really big decision to be like, I'm gonna go on update my first episode, and here's what I'm gonna talk about. That's like, so you know, I would guess that might be kind of his thing. And I think I mean, can't remember the last time we really had that just as a concept. And it's also like kind of it's a trendy thing to not talk about because of Sydney Sweeney, because people will take it personally when it's like your parents. So I feel like he was also like treading it felt very racy, like very 90s, to be like, I'm gonna say something that's gonna make people feel uncomfortable, in this way that like definitely felt fresh. It felt like something that usually is avoided on SNL and on most TV shows that I elect to watch, honestly. It felt like that type of raciness that I enjoyed. I liked that it was challenging even me, to be like, oh yeah, we should talk like this, and it's not a problem to be like, yeah, we have differences. So I thought that was
It was good for the show.
perspective. Yes.
Okay, Kaleena, how do you feel about Michael Longfellow here?
Yeah, I think first of all, that was a great lead in, Nicole. Thank you for all that insight. I don't know, it was kind of a mix, because my first reaction was like, okay, here's the new, you know, resident young person. Okay, I get it. And it kind of felt like they were almost setting him up to fill shoes, which I don't think is a great starting point. But to Nicole's point, I think he did a really great job about being like, all right, this is the mold you think you're going to put me in. I'm just going to melt over the top a little bit. You know, I liked kind of, as she was describing, how he was like a little shy, a little timid, but he was very composed. And, you know, if he was nervous, it didn't really show. It kind of seemed like he was kind of just gently testing out the waters and, you know, trying to figure out where exactly he was going to get the laughs and when to pause a little bit longer. I like that he was kind of going into the family stuff like, okay, here's a little bit of my background. Here's the kind of jokes I would make. It kind of felt like I was watching him do stand up for the first time, you know, like it just felt like a good introduction into the kind of elements and kind of comedy that he like personally is going to bring to the show. I was not only impressed that, you know, as a new cast member, that he got a spot on Update right away, but I thought it was a really good way for me to get excited about him and now find myself like looking forward to catching him in future sketches.
Haskell, how do you feel about the debut of Michael Longfellow?
So the Pete Davidson things are the comparisons are gonna be there. I felt like this was a little bit like Moneyball, as I start to see these new cast members where they were like, we can't replace Pete Davidson and the mainstream attention that he's gonna get, so we're gonna try to replace him with like 3 or 4 different people. And it was a little obvious right there to throw him in that spot on Weekend Update. He's really good. He's seasoned in that position. And he was funny, and I want to see him do that more. My only concern for him would be like, you got to remember what Pete Davidson was when he started, which is Pete Davidson, you know, he came out, he was on that first Weekend Update, his first episode, and then he was up and down, especially those first couple years. So like, you know, it's a funny bit, and if you're going to do funny stand-up, like, I appreciate funny stand-up bits. If you're going to come on Weekend Update, that's great, do them, but like, don't, you know, I want to see his like next thing be in a sketch, not just, I don't want his next big appearance to be like another stand-up bit on Weekend Update and then get like locked into that role.
Yeah, I have to be honest. Like, I mean, I get the comparison, but I didn't really see it at all. Like, I didn't see the Pete and Michael Longfellow thing. Like, I get that they're both young people with like brown hair, but they really totally gave me like different type of stand up, like different sounding voice, like different tone. Like, I really felt like the style was just different. And to me, like he seems like when Pete Davidson was on the show in the beginning, like he really was like a kid. You know, like now, like Michael Longfellow didn't feel like a kid to me tonight. Like he felt like mature and seasoned, which is, I think, how he described him. So I do think that there's a difference. But this to me is a conversation to talk about more later on in the week, because we have to talk about Bowen Yang's appearance on Weekend Update as well as the Lantern Fly. So this is a typical Bowen Yang trope that we talked about, coming out as a different type of object or animal or bug or whatever it is. He's going to eat your crops, but we got amazing energy from Bowen here. And then Andrew Dismukes comes out as the crops later on. So Kaleena, starting with you on Bowen's piece.
I am so down for anything that Bowen is going to do on Update. It feels like it is where he is the most like cage free. I feel like that's where he's really allowed to kind of just throw it all to the walls creatively. I do love when he's a bug or like something really bizarre. I am completely out of the loop if like these lantern flies or whatever they're called is that like a real thing that's happening right now?
Oh yeah. Anyway, is it
Okay,
just
so
me on here who's seeing them?
I don't think
Where
they
are
made it
you
up to Canada
guys?
yet.
Haskell? Have you had them? Oh my God. Okay, they are
Yeah.
terrorizing New York. They started in New Jersey, and then by like a month ago, they're in my office. They're in New York. They're in the city. They're in places you would never expect them to be. They are someone. I was walking down the street, and my doorman. I was walking like out of my building. My doorman was like, "Oh my God, you have one on your back." They're everywhere. He had to take it off of my back. They're no, they are once they hit once they hit wherever anyone listening lives, like you will know. It will be done for you. Like it's wild.
okay, so
Interesting.
Truly.
then
These are real.
this may be another
Yeah.
example then of, maybe if I was regionally placed differently, maybe I would have found it that much funnier. But I really enjoyed it. I always love the update bits where the player gets to go really close to the camera. Kind of reminds me of, the Stefan bit or any Fred Armisen character, really, where at the end they would always kind of run up to the camera there. What I was curious about though is I was surprised at the amount of like audience participation in favor of the ongoing joke. Do you have any insight, John, if there happened to be someone like kind of conducting the audience of when to boo and when to kind of pull back for the joke, or was that just kind of a natural interaction?
I don't have any particular insight right now into that particular segment, but I do believe that they probably had some coaching on that, because like they're told to basically be quiet and laugh otherwise. So there
Right.
has to have been some type of booing or perhaps pre-recorded booing involved in that. So interesting. Haskell, how did you feel about this?
Yeah, I'm gonna have to be the bad guy here. I'm so done with these characters. Not just I think Bowen does do it a lot for my liking, but I think I've seen it from other people. Like I'm a punchline guy. I like punchy comedy. Like I don't want this like big, and they bring the energy, and the writing is just not there. Like I'm not gonna get there on energy alone, and it's so over the top and just not focused enough that it was like the dud of the night for me.
Okay, I know how Nicole feels about it, so try and be succinct in your praise of this.
Well, I respect your opinion. Also, I'll take this opportunity to say, what a night for Bowen. I feel like I have
First
similar,
overall pick.
yes, for our draft. If anybody, we had a draft for, and I got first pick of a cast draft where we picked based on our projected sketch appearances, who we think is going to have the most appearances. And I got first overall pick, and I picked Bowen, and it looks like I'm doing great because I think that he was in the most. We'll confirm all of this shortly, but he, I think, had the best night of any cast member. He had such a night, and I feel like, and I hesitate to say this, I'm like he is. I could not say enough amazing things about Bowen. I do think it is very like it was kind of like the Bowen show, the way people would call it the Kate show a little bit a couple of years ago. and I'm happy with it. I the more the merrier for me, but I do wonder if that's kind of where we're heading, and because it felt that way. For however people feel about that, I feel good about it. But anyway, so I loved it. For me, this character felt like just like an amalgamation of a bunch of like Real Housewives characters, like all weaved into one. Um, like Sutton Strack, it felt very much like Sutton to me, which I loved, and it was yeah, I would say this was a Real Housewives bug, and I was for it. Um, Also, yeah, a lot of like the campy costumes were great. And I liked the element of kind of incorporating like, at first, it felt like it would just be, like, archival footage of a news story where Bowen was featured. Like, Keenan had that for the Arby's commercials twice last year, where it's like he's not on Update, but he has recorded in it, but then he was, in fact, in it. So I thought that was a cool way to play with the form a little bit, to have, how we were shown like a video, or it looked like it was just a video, and then it turns out he really was there live. I like that because it feels like it's either, it feels, yeah, like a new way to adapt the form a little bit.
All right, let's talk about the last two sketches that we got this evening. And we got a McDonald's sketch coming up next, where we had Sarah Sherman as Birdie the early bird, Mikey as Mikey Donald, Bowen as Hamburglar, Keenan as Mayor McCheese, and Miles Teller as the Grimace, who is now bulked up, stopped eating McDonald's, became bisexual over the summer, and he's loving both. So, Haskell, how did you feel about the McDonald's sketch?
I'm a sucker for any like those McDonald's characters. That has nothing to do with the fact that if you go to my Twitter right now, Andrew E. Haskell, you can find some old sketches of mine that involve McDonald's characters. But whatever. The one thing I picked up on is I think SNL's gotten to the point now where they're like, they make the costumes. Sometimes if they think a costume isn't going to work, they're just like, let's just make it bad. So that's going to be part of it. Like the makeup was definitely off, especially like right around his neck and his chin. And part of me just thinks like they're so good at so much that I think that's part of the joke now.
Nicole, how did you feel about the McDonald's sketch?
That's a good point. They're so good at so much that I have to think on that one, Haskell. I know I was trying to be mean to you, but I do think that's a point worth meditating on. Anyway. I liked it. I thought it was fun. Yeah, I thought it was fun. And McDonald's, I feel like there's more again to be played with about McDonald's. So I feel like it was fun. And the like bisexual, like coming back from the summer, it felt like a good bit on that, and the costumes were fun. Yeah, I think it did have some similar energy, and I think the reason I did start to feel the sort of sketch fatigue heading into the second half, I do feel like structurally it was similar to the Charmin, and I think maybe that was some of sort of the costuming a little bit was similar, but it just felt like the DNA of it felt, yeah, it felt similar to that, and like the structuring of it more than anything. But I liked it. I thought it was great. I kind of feel like maybe I feel like I would have liked to see this actually in the front half, and then one of the other sketches in the back half looser. Like I feel like I liked this one as more like a tight sketch potentially, and then like loosen something else up and put it in the back half. I feel like I would have liked it better that way. But I did like it, and I liked the concept. But yeah, that I feel like that was related to my sort of fatigue a little bit of the like structure of things by the end. But truly, I think this might have been my favorite of the night, if it had played earlier, or maybe at the very end.
Yeah, this definitely would not have been my favorite of the night, no matter where it was. I mean, I think there was like something to it that was there, but like I'm still not sure that I fully found the like through line here that like made it so structurally work. I guess like I always have a thing where it's like, okay, you have four characters and they're all like trying to, no pun intended, really, no pun intended, but trying to play it straight in this particular thing. And then you have like the Grimace character come in and like he he's supposed to be like the weird one in the room, but then they're like the other characters weren't developed enough because like we're not like, are we supposed to know their characteristics from this particular sketch or from what we know about them? So like there was a lot of like things here that like were layered to the sketch, and maybe like the writers of the sketch didn't necessarily want us to think that deep into it, but that's what we do here. So I don't know that I don't know that there was much here for me, but I think they had fun. So and then the last one of the night was Caribbean Queens. And by the way, I love this song. Like, such a good song. When I heard it, I was jamming. But big Billy Ocean fan, like Heidi and Ego, who played the old women here, Trinity and Desiree, and the older women here. And Punky was the bartender. We had Miles and Keenan in the sketch. And then Devin Walker plays Frank Ocean in this one. So, Nicole, did you like Caribbean Queens?
Okay. At first I thought it was going to be minor, but then I was like a little taken aback. The similarities between this and Barb and Star Go to Vista Del Mar. Did anyone in the chat let me know if you thought it was the same? Because I was like, these are the same characters. It is the same set of circumstances. It is the same personalities, bordering on the same like accents as Kristen Wiig and Annie Mumolo do in that movie, which is great. I mean, what a fun movie. But it almost felt like Jamie Dornan was about to pop in and cameo. That's how similar it felt to me to that movie. Anyone else? Yes, I see someone in the chat. Connor, thank you. To me, it was so similar that it was like I'm at the point where I feel like it was like a direct kind of parody, but that movie already is kind of a satire of a type of person. But yeah, it felt like really so like at a certain point I was like distracted by how similar these characters were to those characters in that movie. If anyone hasn't seen it, it's a movie starring Kristen Wiig and Annie Mumolo, who also co-wrote Bridesmaids together and have been long-term writing partners, and they were co-stars in this film. When often like, you know, Kristen is more front-facing than Annie, and you know, like Annie had a small role in Bridesmaids, but whatever. Long story short, like they co-wrote and starred in this movie. Barb and Star Go to Vista Del Mar, and the characters are I mean, I was like shook at the whatever, but it was fun. It was fun. I feel like the song, I agree with you, John. The song and the singing, that was the best part. It was great. I'm gonna actually like go back and listen to that song. That's kind of my takeaway. Yeah, that was overpowering my analytical skills throughout the sketch.
Yeah.
See, I couldn't get on board with the sketch because Jamie Dornan didn't show up. Maybe if he had showed up, then it would have been a different story. But if he's not going to show up and sing, then it's just not the sketch for me.
Yeah, so as a big Billy Ocean fan, I saw Bill in the chat said he would like Billy Ocean a cameo. I would have liked that as well. I also like Get Out of My Dreams, Get Into My Car. It's a very great Billy Ocean song. But yeah, my 2 cents on the sketch is just that Heidi and Ego, I think obviously this is the beginning of a pairing. I think we're going to see a lot together over the years. So over season 48. So for me, this is sort of like a preview into what this could potentially look like. Haskell, how do you feel about Caribbean Queens?
Remember earlier in this show, I said we have a tendency as fans to say, like, I've seen this premise before, so I'm checking out. Like, I was sort of there. I just didn't get hooked in because I just felt like I've seen this 10-to-1 sketch with 15 different groupings before in the last handful of years. Ego and Heidi, give me some sort of recurring sketch with these two that they can be a pair. It's just not going to be this.
That is fair. Okay, this one was written by Allison Gates, Ken Sublette, and then one of our new writers tonight, which was Jimmy Fowley. Okay. We had 3 cut sketches tonight. So they were, and I'll try to do my best to explain as far as I understand, was Blood Oath was one of the sketches. And this was a live sketch. And it was all about Andrew Dismukes doing a blood oath and cutting his hand open. That was a Streeter Seidel and O'Kane sketch. There was a sketch where Sarah was playing Elvis. So this was a Sarah Sherman showcase where she was making some Jewish jokes that we got to see some of that last year on season 47, running around acting as Elvis. They kept giving her things to do, like playing the piano and gambling and then dying on the toilet. So this was a Sarah Sherman piece that was Dan Bula and O'Sullivan, one of the new writers, was the writer for this one. And I assume Sarah had a lot to do with that as well. So Sierra O'Sullivan was the writer on that one. And then we had a third piece known as Couple Without Kids. And that was also a live sketch. So 3 live sketches were cut tonight. And that was a Sarah also talking about not having kids as well. So that, we'll find out more about those sketches throughout the week. Hopefully some of them will end up online, but those were our 3 cuts. So no cut pre-tapes, just 3 cut live sketches. Also very excited about the 4 new writers that we got on the show tonight. So we saw Jimmy Fowley, Sierra O'Sullivan, Casey Shornama, and August White. I believe Casey is going to be on Weekend Update, and the other 3 are the new writers for the show. All right, this is how we end our hot take shows every single week. We give a rating out of 10. Chat, I would love to get your ratings as well, and we will put them up on screen. So, Haskell, starting with you, how would you rate our premiere of season 48 out of 10?
I'm going to give it an 8, based mainly on a really strong start, and it just kind of holds it for a kind of a weaker ending.
Nicole?
Wow. I was gonna go, I feel like I liked it more than you liked it, but I'm gonna go 7.8. And that's a high 7.8. I feel really good about it.
Kaleena?
Yeah, I was gonna say 7.7, kind of for the same reasons. Like, it started really strong and then kind of teetered off at the end a little bit. But I'm not an opener that I'm mad with, for sure.
Yeah, I think for me, I'm at about a 7.5, and that's probably with a little bit of a boost for being the premiere and putting it on a scale. I mean, look, I really did enjoy this episode, so I'm not trying to take away anything from it. I just think that there's more to be gained here. But like the beginning of this episode, if I was just going to rate the episode from the first part of it, I think the first like 15, 20 minutes of this episode was easily a 9 out of 10 for me, as far as like what we can get from SNL. I just think it tapered off later on. It was probably more of like a midway show, maybe a 5 out of 10 for the second half of the episode. So for me, I probably go somewhere with like a 7.5, which is I think a pretty good score for the premiere, probably one of the highest premiere scores. I don't remember what I gave the premiere last year, if anybody wants to go back and check that. But I think this is definitely higher than the Owen Wilson premiere that we got. Okay, that is our premiere for season 48, and I hope you enjoyed this conversation where we broke down every sketch immediately after. And if you were looking for more coverage of this episode, well, we have it for you on Monday nights at 8 p.m. Eastern. I will be back with an amazing panel of guests to talk through everything in our roundtable, where we'll dive deep into the sketches that we really want to talk about, parse them out, go through all the details. And then we will also go over some of your feedback, where we're going to put up some polls on social media. If you want to answer those polls, they'll be up earlier in the day on Monday, and we will give the results of those to get your feedback on the episodes on Monday nights. On Wednesday night, Nicole Rovine will be live with Mike Murray for the By the Number Show, the first edition of our weekly By the Number Show, where they will give you an update to the power rankings and talk through all the numbers from this particular episode. We'll also update the standings from the draft for our first week. So I know that Sammy's very happy about his friend Mikey Longs, so doing pretty well on the show tonight. So that will be on Wednesday. And then Thursday, join us for our first patron feedback show, where we will answer questions from the community, and then look forward to the next week with Brendan Gleason. So if you want to get your questions in for that forum will be up on social media the day before. You can get your questions in our Instagram stories or on Twitter. And 4 episodes a week covering every single episode all season long. Haskell, thanks for joining us. Where can the listeners reach out to you and check out everything you got going on?
Yeah, Andrew E. Haskell on Twitter and Instagram. Go on Twitter tonight. Check out my McDonald's sketches. Tell me if you think they're better than what SNL did. I don't know. I'm excited to hear from you guys.
Yeah, for sure. See if Haskell's going to go to Judo College or not. Nicole, thanks for joining us as always. Where can the listeners check what you got going on?
Yeah, I'm happy I was able to be here after my little health scare in the emergency room today. It was truly, I've never felt better. I ever felt better, because I think I'm going to start going and getting IV drips of vitamins, because it was great today. But you can, anyways, thank you for having me. This was very fun. And you can find me anywhere at Nicole Rovine and at the SNL Network. We're doing so much fun stuff, and definitely stay tuned for our weekly By the Number show. It's a new thing that we're going to do weekly. So also let us know what types of segments you want to see. We're really excited. We have a lot of plans, and we're going to try to make it really, just fun and immersive and engaging to talk about these numbers and make I feel like we take fun and we put numbers into fun here, and we also want to put fun into numbers. So come to the shows, and do the fun and the numbers at the same time, right along with us.
Numbers.
We're very excited about it.
Kaleena, thanks for joining us as well tonight. Wonderful to get to hear from you on the first Hot Take show of the season. Where can the listeners check out everything you got going on?
Yeah, guys, thank you so much for having me on the first show. I was so excited. I've never done a first show before, so this was really fun. Y'all can find me down below at Shut Up Kaleena across social media.
Perfect. So yeah, you could definitely check out all our social handles at the SNL Network, still the SNL Network on our handles, but you have may notice we are the Saturday Night Network now, which is very exciting. We got all new branding, and I hope you like it in the podcast feed as well. So if you can also subscribe to the podcast feed, maybe you only check us out on YouTube and you don't think you have a reason to listen on audio, but it's really cool. I mean, the shows we put together, we do a really good job editing the shows for the audio feed and have some wonderful people who help us with that. So if you're in the car, you're on a walk and you want to listen to our shows, you can do that as well. Subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you listen to your podcast. Really appreciate those subscriptions, and definitely find us wherever we are. So I just want to thank everyone in the chat for staying up late with us and joining us each and every Saturday night for the Hot Take shows. Thank you to Andrew, Kaleena, and Nicole. We will see you on Monday night, everybody. Have a good one.